Tested, The Proven Path to a Rewarding Career in Sport by Pat Cummins is both a memoir and a guidebook. It offers a revealing look into the life and mindset of one of Australia's most admired cricketers. More than just a recount of matches and milestones, the book dives into the psychology, discipline, setbacks, and decision-making that shaped Cummins from a talented teenager into the captain of the Australian Test team. His storytelling is candid and deeply introspective, grounded in real-world experiences that illustrate how he built resilience, defined purpose, and made sense of success in a high-pressure, high-profile career. The story begins in the Blue Mountains, New South Wales, where Cummins grew up in a sports-loving household. Cricket wasn't always at the centre of his life. Like many Australian kids, he played a variety of sports and experienced a carefree childhood. But even from a young age, he showed a remarkable ability to focus and absorb feedback. His early years highlight the importance of a strong support system, family, coaches, and mentors, and the role they play in shaping a young athlete's path, particularly one that would become so scrutinized by the national media. One of the pivotal moments in the book is his debut for Australia at just 18. It seemed like a fairy tale, a raw-pace bowler stepping onto the international stage and grabbing headlines with his skill and composure. But what followed was a brutal lesson in the fragility of professional sport. A string of injuries threatened not just his career but his identity. Cummins walks us through the emotional and physical toll these years took on him. Instead of a chronological sob story, he explores how he built a mindset to cope, shifting from frustration to acceptance, from helplessness to agency. Rehabilitation, he explains, became a second profession. He didn't just show up for physio. He studied recovery science, asked endless questions, and slowly reframed injury from a misfortune to a challenge. His storytelling here is particularly effective because it doesn't romanticize resilience. He admits to days of doubt, anger, and jealousy. But he also reveals how he found structure and control in the chaos, how setting tiny daily goals gave him a sense of progress when progress seemed invisible. Crucially, Cummins discusses the identity crisis that comes when a sportsperson cannot do their sport. His honesty here stands out. Without cricket, he felt stripped of value. He leaned heavily on education, enrolling in university studies, and exploring interests outside of cricket. These weren't just distractions, they were vital in broadening his sense of self. This became a key lesson: diversification isn't just about careers, it's about mental sustainability. The return to international cricket wasn't a triumphant, movie-style moment. It was slow, gradual, and full of uncertainties. Cummins narrates how he rebuilt not just his body, but his confidence, and how he learned to manage pressure with a different lens. He began to approach cricket as something he got to do, not had to do. That shift, from obligation to opportunity, changed the way he handled the spotlight, success, and failure. When he finally re-established himself as a regular in the Australian team, the book shifts into themes of leadership, values, and team culture. Cummins doesn't see leadership as a title, he views it as a responsibility that emerges from how you treat others. He reflects on the dressing room dynamics, power plays, and the need for emotional intelligence in a traditionally macho sport. His captaincy journey is less about tactics and more about trust, learning when to speak, when to listen, and how to lead by vulnerability rather than bravado. One particularly striking section deals with the aftermath of the 2018 ball tampering scandal. Though not directly involved, Cummins felt the weight of the crisis deeply. He explains how it shattered public trust and how the players who remained had to rebuild not just team morale but the image of Australian cricket itself. Here, the book becomes part ethics lecture, part personal confession. He outlines how culture isn't something you state in a document, it's what you practice when no one's watching. As captain, Cummins approaches leadership with the mindset of a learner, not a commander. He shares examples of when things went wrong, miscommunication, missed opportunities, and how those situations taught him more than the victories. Rather than positioning himself as a flawless figurehead, he portrays a grounded individual who is still evolving, still figuring out what kind of leader he wants to be. He also writes extensively about the importance of mental health resources in sport, advocating for systems that support players as people first. There is also a strong theme of environmental and social responsibility. Cummins is one of the few elite athletes who openly uses his platform to speak on climate change and humanitarian issues. His writing here is earnest, not preachy. He's not claiming moral superiority, rather, he's making the case that sport can't exist in a bubble. If you have influence, he argues, it's worth thinking about how you use it. This theme, woven throughout the book, adds depth and moral weight to the story. Off the field, he writes about balance, a concept that many elite performers struggle with. Cummins talks about his relationship, his hobbies, and his need to disconnect. He doesn't glamorize grind culture. In fact, he actively pushes against it, insisting that rest and perspective are just as important as nets and training sessions. This lifestyle philosophy feeds back into his longevity as an athlete, proving that sustainability and success aren't mutually exclusive. Throughout the book, Cummins mixes introspection with practical takeaways. His approach to failure, for instance, is refreshing. He doesn't chase perfection, he chases adaptability. Whether it's a bad over or a public criticism, he treats each experience as feedback rather than judgment. That mindset, he argues, is what separates long careers from short ones. It's not talent or luck, it's the ability to reflect, adjust, and try again. The narrative is punctuated by behind-the-scenes moments that fans rarely see. Awkward conversations with selectors, navigating sponsorship demands, confronting self-doubt after poor performances. Each of these moments is written not for sympathy, but to illuminate how much personal management goes into a public career. He never loses sight of the person behind the player, and that human thread is what keeps the book grounded. By the final chapters, the tone is confident but never arrogant. Cummins has clearly grown into his role, not just as a cricketer or captain, but as a man who knows what he stands for. He's comfortable being questioned, even criticized, because he knows what he values. His closing reflections center on gratitude, service, and purpose. He doesn't view his story as extraordinary. He views it as an example of what can happen when you combine potential with patience, and ambition with humility. Ultimately, Tested is not just about Pat Cummins the athlete. It's about Pat Cummins the human being navigating a volatile world with honesty, discipline, and curiosity. It's a book about values as much as victories. For anyone aspiring to a career in sport, or just a more resilient life, it's a valuable companion, tested, refined, and deeply real.